I'm going to call this G flat major, E flat minor toolbox number 1 because I don't know how long this is going to take. I have no idea what I've gotten myself into. And there are a million more things to share than what I'm going to share here, but this is just ideas for G flat major. And each one of these things applies to take 5 directly. You can use each one of them directly in this tune in solo and concepts, which I'll illustrate in another segment. But here's some ideas. G flat major. If any of you've watched any of my scales videos in G major, you'll know that that's the first place I'm going to go, is to single hand position modal scales. Octave and a third, and we're practicing several different ways, but I'm going to start off just with this shape, just what you're looking at. I'm not doing it with a metronome on purpose because everybody's going to have a different starting point, and you're going to aim towards either higher speeds or be happy with slower speeds. So this is the G flat major, octave and third, one hand position, scale straight up, straight down, very slowly. In my right hand technique, which I won't go into because everybody's going to have their own thing that they're going to want to do, but I use an alternating type roll almost all the time with thumb lead. I switch to middle finger lead or index finger lead as necessary, but almost always I'm leading with my thumb because it gives me the same feel as a flat picking guitar player with downstrokes on the strong beats. Helps me to play straight or swung. Okay, so that's G flat major, Ionian or root position, which applies to this kind. This is one of the arpeggio shapes, or this. That's root 3 and major 7. This is root 5, major 7 and 1. Now at this point I can branch off and show you each modal shape, or I can show you some different pattern type techniques that you can play on each modal shape, which I will cover, but I'm going to stick right here with G flat major to start off with. This is 4-note sequences. It's easier for me fast now. Try that again. So that's 4-note shape number 1. Here's another 4-note shape. Instead of going, you go. So it's whatever. You can noodle around with that, but basically 4-note shape number 1 is, whereas whereas four note shape number 2 is. And those you'll use both of them. Another one is playing scales in thirds. This is very useful. You'll recognize this. Scales in thirds. Lately I've been getting into something that seems super simple, but it ends up being fairly challenging once you dig into it. It's just playing 2 instances of the same note, or 3 instances, or 4. So here's an example of each one of those. How about 3 notes? What this causes you to do is make your accent finger something other than your thumb. Now some of you might play it as a forward roll, thumb index middle. And I find that useful, but it doesn't have the same tone as. Tone's the wrong word. Feel. Doesn't have the same feel. Triplets are sometimes good when you're using a 3-finger pattern, but a 2-finger pattern seems to emphasize, you can emphasize straight feel 3-note sequences. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how I find that useful. 4-note sequences. So anyway, all of those are useful, and in the way that I play, it causes crossovers and all kinds of weird right-handed things. But I find the payoff is that I'm able to make I'm able to make it feel the way that I want to make it feel. Not for everybody, but that's what I do. Now, in that same vein, there are accents. I'll accent different notes within a 4-note sequence. So we're jumping thirds in this case. So this is like playing thirds, but you're playing multiple notes, multiple instances of the same note, and then following it up with a note a third above or below, depending on which direction you're going.